All right. Wow. Divine greetings, everybody. I am Queen Aline, and I am joined today by my amazing friend, Kenneth Ford. And we are literally mid-conversation right now. We were just on a Zoom call talking as friends, and it just got so juicy that we decided to record ourselves because Kenneth right here is an absolute king. Oh my God, he has been telling me his journey, his recovery story, his struggles, his challenges, and he just suggested, why don't we record this so that we can help inspire other people that are on this journey too of survival, recovery, seeking new ways to be healthy. And so I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Kenneth.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'll try to recap for your audiences, but like the brief version of, because we talked about a lot already, like so much. And so I was telling you about my experience of the 40-day water fast in Costa Rica with Lauren Lockman, who I love. I mean, his whole staff is amazing. It was the most amazing experience. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. And hopefully I'll get to do it in the future. And it was great. What was difficult for me, being also a long time recovering drug addict and alcoholic, is I was afraid to leave at the end of it, because I know me, I know myself, I know addiction if I don't know anything else. And I knew that there were groups like Shane, which shout out to you, Shane, I love you so much, Raw Vegan Rising and his Raw Vegan Heroes. And I tapped into that and I utilized that, but I felt like I needed real people in like physical, see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, human beings that I could grab onto. Like I needed to take people and literally stick them in my hip pocket with me because of, you know, that could be the title of a book, Trying to Be Raw in a Cooked Foods World, because that's exactly what it is. Trying to be raw or being raw in a cooked foods world. Like it's, you know, I was saying that like after all the addictions that I've overcome and all of the life trials and tribulations that I've traversed, I'm an AIDS survivor. Like I came out as a homosexual teenager in 1977. Just wrap your brain around that for a minute, what that really was like. So Black and gay and out, and I never felt, masculine enough, or I never felt, Black enough, whatever that means. Like, so there was all of these things, and I'm a survivor from all of that kind of stuff. In 2016, I sustained, I didn't tell you this part. So 2016, I sustained a stage 4 hemorrhage from my rectum because I had some polyps removed and whatever. And then 10 days out from the surgery was supposed to be successful. 10 days out, which is this is a rarity. 10 days out, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just bleeding, and I was rushed to the emergency room, and I lost 4 liters of blood, which they call a stage 4. I think, what does a human have? 5 liters. Like, oh, I was literally on a gurney bleeding out. That happened in 2016. So many different things. I survived AIDS, all this stuff, and like I was saying, who would have thought that a slice of Ezekiel bread and a bowl of rice and beans would be the thing that I can't put down? Like, that's mind-boggling to me, and I know that I'm a strong person on so many different levels, but I am an addict. That's like I'm transcending that. I'm on a sojourn where I'm journeying through that to transition that, but I have deep-seated addictions. There's a lot of people in the raw community do that stem all the way back from my childhood, not to be a victim, but it's reality of my 2 parents that were alcoholics and yada, 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 on and on and on and on. Having a brother that is schizophrenic, bipolar, who also is in recovery too from drugs and alcohol. So, it's just us 2, but there's a lot of that in my history. And as far as like cooked food, like you said, I never would have thought that, but no one ever tries to not eat cooked food for the most part, except for people who have found the raw food journey. No one ever thinks about that. And that is one of the pinnacles of addiction is oftentimes we don't know we're addicted to something until we try to stop. When you try to
Absolutely.
stop, you're like, oh my God, like, a light bulb goes on where you're like, wow, I'm addicted to that thing, and so this has been one of the most difficult things that I've ever had to do. And it's right now, like where I'm at, just in all transparency, is I'll put together a few weeks and then I fall off. I'll put together a few months and then I'll fall off. And when I left Tanglewood after the 40-day water fast, and this is huge because Tanglewood, with my permission, they posted a lot of videos. They followed me along on my fast, and we posted all that kind of stuff, and it's great. But I wanted to let people know, like, okay, like, what's the update? Like, wherever you are today. And this is nothing against Tanglewood. It's just me and all that I bring to the table. And my own personal journey is when I came out of that, I didn't have any support. I reached out to get some support, but the forces that were around me that were actually real and pressing in on me, like my husband isn't raw. I mean, he's not even a vegetarian. So like, and it's easy to say while you're in this enclave or this bubble, which is this reality. Like when I was in Costa Rica, it was like literally being in the Garden of Eden. It was like I was in this insulated, almost like a virtual reality. So it's easy to say, oh, well, just divorce your husband who you love and you've been with for 11 years. Like, really? Come on, you're giving me that as a solution. I know that that's an option, but I don't really want to do that. I'm not ready to do that. I don't want to do that. I love him. I'm not doing that. So I have to find other ways. And I have four adult children, 6 grandchildren, this whole life that 90% of it I love. I like. I'm not, it's nothing broken about it. I'm the one who's on this journey. Like when I got clean from drugs and alcohol, I knew the world wasn't going to stop having a cocktail. Like it's not about that. It's about me having to do it. So I was just telling you that, I really would love to have or create or have exist in some way things that mirror 12-step. Now, here's the thing about 12-step, and a lot of my 12-step brothers and sisters don't like when I say this, but I'm going to tell the truth. Most people don't get that program, like don't get it. Like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and all those anonymouses, for the most part, 75 to 80% of it is a revolving door program. People go in and out in it, even with all of that support. Now think about that. Even with all of that support, most people do not get the program the first time around, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth time around. And for the most part, people do get it and have long-term sobriety, or in my case, like heroin was my thing, snorting heroin. Long-term, I've been clean for 31 years. So people do get it, but not the majority get it. Most people go in and out and in and out and in and out.
Well, it's because it's a program of action too. I would just want to add into that is that just going to the meetings is one part of it. But if you don't get a sponsor, if you don't actually do the steps, if you don't put in the work, you don't start volunteering and giving back and being in service, you're missing a big element of the program. And I've noticed that I've been in and out. I've been one of those people that was in and out. And until I started really putting it into practice and taking it seriously as a program, like what do we have to do? We can't just take the 5% or 10% that we like. We have to do it all, and then it starts to work.
You're absolutely right. No truer words have been spoken. It is a program of action. But think about this, Aileen, that even in the literature, and you're 110% right, no pushback from me on that. But even in the literature, like I'm not really much of I can't quote chapter and verse, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it says somewhere in there that rarely, and the operative word is on rarely have we seen or have we found people that have thoroughly followed this path not succeed, right? I'm paraphrasing. But even when that, it says rarely. We've never seen anyone who's thoroughly followed this path not. So even if you do everything, it's a high chance that you're going to be okay, that you're going to be able to get it. But there might even be a few people that might fall through the cracks. So, and that's with you doing everything. So,
I think there should be another step concerning food and detoxification, because that's where I have found the missing link with the 12 steps, is like, as much as I love and respect everybody that's in those programs, I really felt like there was an aspect of health that was missing, that was maybe not included in the book or not included in the program. Like, yes, taking care of ourselves, yes, prayer, meditation, all those things are wonderful. And then I started finding out about parasites. I started finding out about what's living inside of me. Because when I got caught with an urge, I mean, I could have been clean for 6 months. That was my pattern. It was like I would get clean for 5-6 months and then I'd relapse again. And there was like an urge inside of me that's like, maybe it was trauma, maybe it was so many things, like you were talking about being underlying issues, but I had parasites in me. I had like a blocked up digestive system that didn't even allow me to think properly, that was constantly bringing me into states of depression. So like there were so many links between the consumption, not just the drugs and alcohol, but the food, the coffee, the cigarettes, the acidic foods I was consuming, everything came together. So now I've come to understand that one French fry might lead to a coffee, might lead to a cigarette, might lead to a drink, might lead to cocaine, for me anyway, in my personal life. So it was like a holistic approach that I had to take in order to stop falling. So that's why I went into like the deep juice cleansing, the water fasting like you have, because I was so committed to getting rid of these parasitic entities, or even like these, if you want to call it like demonic energies that were in me, these like
no,
residues from
I
like
don't think
my
that that's an
ancestors and
overstatement.
stuff. It's deep.
Yeah, I don't think that's an overstatement. Like, no,
Yeah.
I do consider them to be entities. I
Yeah.
mean, they are living organisms. Your gut microbiome is an environment
Yes.
within an environment. It's an environment within you, and it's colonies. We even use these terms when we're talking
Yes.
about probiotics and prebiotics. There are colonies. There's a whole world inside our gut that you're absolutely right. That most people, God bless them in various different 12-step programs, but a lot of it, they're not, it's just no awareness about it. And there's a lot of addiction substitution, like, people gain tremendous amounts of weight, like put on hundreds of pounds when they get clean from whatever their drug of choice is. And oftentimes some of them pick up smoking when they didn't even smoke before that. And so there's a lot of that, substituting one thing for another.
Yeah. And
for
and
sure.
also I wanted to say, like if we put things in perspective, and we always have to look at how far we've come. Like, look how far you've come. You're being hard on yourself because of, we were talking about rice and beans and Ezekiel bread, and saying like, why does this have such a hold on me? And I do too. I mean, I do the same thing. I am right there with you. Even in the raw foods world, we can still use them addictively. We can still binge on cashews, and like make ourselves feel sick. We could binge on date balls. And I'm being faced with that same kind of addiction reality of like, what's going on underneath, and if you look at how far you've come, and we look at it more as like a transitional path, as opposed to like, okay, I have this ideal of where I want to see
And where I want
myself.
to be, yeah.
So like, just give yourself that love and give yourself that recognition. And I was telling you that, like, I don't know how many people attempt even a water fast, so it's not many people who are answering the call. Maybe they're receiving the call, but it's like, oh my gosh, that's so scary, that's so challenging, and you
Yeah,
have
I
been
can't do
doing
that.
it.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I raise my hat to you, and I really give you so much respect, and I have so much admiration for you for what you've been through, coming from, the upbringing you had, the trauma that you endured. You're so strong, so like, give yourself that
Thank you
love and
so much.
admiration. And I really do feel that from that place of compassion for ourselves, saying like, hey, wait a minute, like, I'm not doing so bad, like, yes, I could be doing maybe better, but we can always do better. And just like loving yourself that much more, and being like accepting where we are at will allow us to get to the next step. I find, overcoming eating disorders as well. I've been through the ringer, bulimia, anorexia, binge eating. I have weighed as low as 80 pounds and as high as 180 pounds. So I know the spectrum
Wow. Yeah.
of the food addiction, and it is hard. And it's like the drugs would come in kind of like to replace the eating disorder, but it was always the eating disorder. It was always this, the food was my first love when I was young. It was the first thing that I started hiding. It was the first thing that I started lying about. Food has been my comfort, and it's so associated with like emotional things too, comfort and joy, and it's just so acceptable too. So as hard as it is to overcome drugs, like overcoming food addiction is maybe even harder, long term, because it's like socially acceptable. Everybody's doing it around us. So it really comes down to like, for me anyway, it was like how it made me feel in my body. Like at this point, it doesn't matter what people are doing around me, but it took me 8 years to get here, from the time I went vegetarian, started releasing, rice and, breads and fried foods. It was like one thing after the next. And I have been clumsy along my way. But really, until I met Shane, I didn't have that mentorship that you were talking about. It's so important to have a mentor. It's so important to have a support community. Sadly, right now, we can't really, well, we can get together a little bit more, but at least we have the virtual world. But we do definitely need connection with other people that are doing this. It's so important, because we can feel so alone in this world. But for me, it came down to like, how do I feel energetically, and how do I feel the next morning? How do I feel an hour after I eat? So the deeper we go into our detox, the less those foods serve us as well. But sometimes it takes time to transition out of them. It takes time to get our gut microbiome used to these new foods. So I just say, like, just enjoy more fruit. Don't be like so obsessed with like the idea of like, oh, I have to be all raw, or even the raw foodists have a bit of cooked food. I'm just going to put it out there. Even breatharians eat sometimes, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah. And I'm finding that more and more, where some of them that like, oh, I've been raw for 6 years over, and then they'll do a video where it comes out, oh yeah, but sometimes I do have to, like, that comes out later, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I was really idolizing some of them. Like, I'm sure a lot of people do, and I'm like, what? It just seems, and obvious, and also too, we carry a huge mantle, us who are just following the call or trying to follow the call, or whatever percentage, or raw before 4, or whatever, wherever we're at on the spectrum, we carry a huge mantle, because when we don't present ourselves uh, honestly and earnestly about who we are, where we're at, and be completely transparent, it's not just putting misinformation out there. It can make a person feel like something is wrong with them, because they know that their reality is, wow, I'm really struggling here. And so many people on YouTube seem to be able to do this thing that I'm struggling with, and that's actually not serving anyone. It's not serving the person who's not presenting themselves in the full light of who they are, and it's not serving the people that may be listening to them and idolizing them and pedestalizing them, putting them on a pedestal, which it's not the reality of it.
right.
So I am so grateful for this conversation, because what has kept me clean from heroin and other illicit drugs for 31 years is whenever I would share, when I would raise my hand and I would share in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous or any kind of 12-step program, I wouldn't share here's the key, here's the clincher. I wouldn't share what I know, I would share where I'm at. And like, I've read not all the books, but a lot of literature about the physiological benefits, how to transition to raw, raw food, recipes, all of that. But it's more important for me to, like, anybody can go online and get that information. There are people out there that are doing that, and I think that they serve a really good purpose of educating the how aspects of it. But I've always shared about where I'm at, not what I know. I mean, if you ask me what I know, or if you ask me a specific question, of course I'll share with you and I'll tell you what I know. And even that, I'll say, I usually lead the what I know with, well, in my experience, I've blah, 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 fill in the blank. Like, because science, all sciences are ever evolving, right? It's once healthy debate and rich conversation gets shut down, that's at the point where I stop growing and I stop learning. So when people ask me questions about being raw, like the technical aspects of it, I'll say, well, in my experience, I have found blah, 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 fill in the blank. And this always leaves a little bit of room to be wrong. Yeah. Like, people are so uncomfortable with, I live in the I don't know. I'm comfortable in the I don't know. That's such a hard thing for human beings. Like, what? You don't know, you should know. Why don't you know? And like, no, it's like, there's so much I don't know, and I'm okay with that. I'm, there's so many spiritual dichotomies to us as human beings. Like, we are created in the image and likeness of the universe, of the creator. So we're as big as the cosmos and stars, but I'm also small and insignificant, and I'm just a wave in the ocean. Both exist simultaneously. So it's not about demeaning yourself or being less than. You know who you are, but in that, there's also, for me anyway, there needs to be a level of humility where you realize that, you're also just, a tiny part of this whole cosmic web that we call existence, right? So I'm fine with living in the I don't know. And I can tell people, like, right now, like I told you, for transparency, like, if we were at some sort of a 12-step meeting, or if this was just about substance abuse, or like heroin or alcohol or whatever, methamphetamines or whatever a person may be listening to this and is addiction to, like, I'm high right now. Like, I just got finished eating some eggs and Ezekiel bread and these Morning Star sausage patties and a cup of coffee. So I'm like, as far from, I want the whole raw world to know, I'm as far from raw right now, talking to you today, Aileen, as I have ever been. After a year and some months of coming off of a 40-day water fast. And after I came off the fast, I stayed raw for about a month after I got home. And then I took on all of these stressful things because I didn't feel worthy while I was away in Costa Rica. My husband held it down here in terms of, he was like, because I wasn't really ready to go to Costa Rica when I went. I was the first group, amongst the first group that Lauren Lockman had at Tanglewood Wellness Center right after the Costa Rican government lifted the ban and allowed international travel into Costa Rica. So the people that were there with me at that time, he had been closed down, or I don't think he had many people, or if they did, they were people that already lived in Costa Rica, but we were the first real group that he had since the lockdown. Wow. That was that group. And I didn't have enough money saved. Like, I paid for my time at Tanglewood. I put it on a credit card. I didn't know how I was going to pay the credit card off. I put all this money on there. And then I was in the process of saving 3 months of paying my half of my mortgage here in the house that me and my husband brought together, and making sure that I gave him, my half of the utility bills and everything, so that when I came back, I wouldn't be in the rears here and for my responsibilities, my financial responsibilities here in Jersey City, New Jersey. And I hadn't done that part of the saving. So my spouse was like, go, don't worry about that. they're opening the borders. And I also, even in that, I mean, he meant well, but I gave into fear. He's like, who knows, Kenneth, next week they might close the borders again. They've opened the borders. You got to go now before they shut it back down. And I was like, yeah, but I don't have enough money saved because I need to pay 3 months of my mortgage and all of that. And he's like, I'll hold it down here. You go. And I did it, Aileen, and I was grateful, but there's still a part of me with all my 31 years of wisdom and light years away from where I was when I was, dying of AIDS back in the early 90s, light years away of self-love, pouring self-love over me for 31 years. There was still a part of me that was experiencing unrest while I was at Tanglewood, because he did all that so that I could be fully present in Costa Rica. And I think that I was much more present than I would have been if he hadn't gifted me that. But there was still a part of me that was like, oh, as soon as I get back, I gotta my feet have to hit the ground running, and I gotta make up all of this stuff, because I felt like, I don't know, I felt like that, and this is just me, this isn't reality, but I felt like he would hold that over my head, and it was just really hard for me. So when I came back to Jersey City, I immediately, because I left my job and everything to do that. Like, I was like, I don't care, I need to do this. And and it was in the pinnacle of the lockdowns and the pandemic. So I was going, we were all going through all this transformative stuff around that, soul searching and everything. So I was like, I don't care. I'll figure it out when I get back to Jersey City. I'm leaving. I left my job they were like, go, take care of yourself. So I felt like I was going blind, like I couldn't see, like my eyes are deteriorating, and they're deteriorating again. But that was a big part of the motivation for me to go, is to heal my sight. And so my job's like, just go, take care of yourself. You always have a place here, whatever. But I didn't really care if I would have got back and that wouldn't have been the reality or whatever. I was going to go, even if they didn't say that. But there was this part of me that all of that support that he was giving me, and that love that he was gifting, there's a part of me that feels like people are not spiritually evolved enough to give completely unconditionally. Like that human part that is always looking for something, even if it's you need to acknowledge that I did all this stuff for you. Like, even if that's all you're looking for, that's not unconditional. You're still looking for, acknowledge that I did all this stuff. So there was that part in me that when I got back, because Lauren gives you like a 6-week program to follow once you're home again. And I was able to do, so what was that? So I was 2 weeks in refeeding after the 40-day water fast. And then when I got home, I did another month. So with the 2 weeks in Costa Rica in the month, it was 6 weeks of raw. And then I started falling off of it because I started trying to like work and do all of this stuff, and my body was not recovered. It takes a while to build up and see, here's the thing. Not only did I water fast for 40 days, but you're laying around, you're just complete, almost like bed rest. So my muscles had atrophied. I was weak, but really, really, really clean and clear. Not weak in the sense of how you feel weak when you're sickly. I was very bright. I was like a bright light, and I was illuminated and alive. Nothing hurt on my body. I had no pain in my joints. I was so flexible. And here's the thing, when you fast like that, you become flexible without practicing flexibility exercise. Without stretching. Like,
no inflammation. There's no inflammation
there's
left.
no inflammation. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I could do full splits and all this stuff that I wasn't practicing that when I was in Tanglewood. But on an emotional, spiritual level, I needed a lot of support. If I would have done anything, if I could do anything over again, I would have had enough financial finances to do the whole 6 weeks of the refeeding program that he gives you when you go home. I would have did all 6 weeks at Tanglewood, because that's like getting out of rehab. I was not ready to come back to the world of demands and the cooked food reality. And I knew, I was afraid. Like, I prayed on the airplane coming home. I was like, oh God, be with me, help me. I knew I was coming back to a meat eating husband and these grandkids that are just Doritos. I mean, like, that's my reality. So imagine people could totally understand not releasing a drug addict out of a 21-day or 28-day rehab and say, okay, go now live in a crack house. Like, who would do that? No, and that's the equivalent of what that was for me. So I am being kind to myself. And again, I'm saying that I'm eating cooked food, and I'm not saying that to beat myself up, and I don't want to come across like I'm beating myself up. It's more of a level of acceptance. And that's not saying that I'm comfortable being a cooked food eater and that my mind isn't still on, I'm gonna achieve this, like, the best health that I can possibly have for myself, which I know is, for me, is a diet primarily of fruit, soft, tender leafy greens, some soaked nuts and seeds and avocados and what have you, and drinking water and exercising, prayer, meditation, the whole thing. But right now, that's where I'm at. Right now, I just ate eggs. Like, okay, tar and feather me and hang me in the town square. It is what it really is. And it doesn't mean that I'm giving up on it, but I'm never going to give up. I will say that for your audiences, I'm not going to give up. I'm not a quitter, but it is where I'm at right now. And right now I'm in a transition financially. I have found that career changes, job changes, precariousness about funds are a huge trigger for me. Right now, so here's the thing, here's another spiritual dichotomy. I took the step and I reached out to you, right? And I said, let's talk. I want to do a Zoom call with you. And you're like, okay, great. We're going to do a deep dive and everything. So there's the empowerment piece. Here I am right now in real time talking to you, but I'm the most vulnerable that I've been in a long time inside of myself. Like, I feel supported by you and by the world, but in my real life here in my apartment, I don't feel supported. And when it comes to, because I'm 60 years old, so when it comes to technology, where I'm at right now, the job location that I was with, and then I went to Costa Rica, and when I came back, I took on that job again. And that job I've had location for 3 years, right? And I got used to all the processes and procedures around computers and stuff like that, which is also a thing that triggers my sense of inadequacy. There's this very deep-seated feeling of inadequacy, that I'm inadequate. I have, in all the empowerment things that I told you about myself, through all of that, I have this little gremlin or whatever it is, this voice in the back of my head that says I'm stupid. And it says that all the time. The only time I can make it get quieter is if I meditate on a consistent basis. But he's always there. And, there's this other part that says, no, you're smart, you're da-da-da, but that's always there. And so right now those voices are loud. And I'm sure it's because I'm eating the coke and all of that too. But my job is changing to where I start this new position tomorrow and then into the weekend. And they're using this whole platform on the computer that a lot of us don't know, and a lot of us have to learn. And I did a training yesterday, but whenever it comes to things like technology or academia or stuff like that, although I test really high, I get high scores on tests, there's this other part that I always get emotionally triggered around. It's very triggering for me. And it tells me all kinds of things that want to see me defeated. Like, it tells me that, oh, like this is ridiculous, but it says, oh, you're 60 and you're of that other era and you're a dinosaur and you're on your way out, and these young millennials and stuff with all this technology, you're never going to be able to keep up. And I've made myself become more and more technologically savvy because of that little voice that is constantly. So it's like I'm a warrior. We're all are warriors, right? So I'm the spiritual warrior who is. I'm not at war with you or anybody else out there. It's that voice that is saying all these things that I'm not even going to repeat because I don't want to even give it that much power. But all these things that it says that's the spiritual warrior, right? That's what I'm battling against. So right now, a couple of slices of Ezekiel bread, I had to weigh okay, I'm not using heroin. I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm not smoking cigarettes. I'm not having unprotected sex. I'm not doing all these other things that, like I've even felt like in the last 72 hours, like, it's like, oh, I just want to run away. I don't want to be an adult. I don't want to deal with this. I don't like, I want to just hide somewhere. And for me, that's code for you want to get high, use something, you want to get you want to have a real out of body experience. So that's where I'm at right now, right here in real time, talking to you and your audience. Like that's what it really, but there's always this duality going on where I don't think that I'm weak, like, because I'm here talking to you about it. That is the strength. You know what I mean? That is the strength, but it doesn't diminish that all this stuff is going on. And it's all based around, like right now, I'm doing the best that I can. And the best right now is I'm eating a fruit. I love fruit. I mean, I love to eat fruit. So I'm doing that, and I'm allowing myself to temporarily eat some cooked food.
Exactly.
It is what it freaking is.
I love it.
You know?
Let me start by saying, wow, I didn't know you were 60. Wow, you look so great.
Thank you.
You don't look 60 at all.
Wait, let me show you myself. Okay, this is me because I want your audience to see.
Yeah.
I turned 60 October 14th.
My goodness.
My body.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a thin guy. I'm a fit guy. Like I'm
strong
in shape.
and lean. Yes.
I'm long and lean, and I'm like 5'7". I am carrying more body fat than what I'd like to, but so what? Like right now I'm like about 165 and I'm 5'7". I'm not tall, I'm short. And my body fat percentage is just probably like around 27%, something like that. I feel more when I'm at my peak fighting weight, as I like to call it. I'm closer to like 10% body fat, which I feel that's optimal for me. So I'm suboptimal, but
and also
this has been really great for me, just talking to somebody.
Yes. And also I'll come back to what I wanted to say before, but most men and women after the age of, I'll say 45, just take it as a natural thing to start getting on medication. They have heart problem issues, they're pre-diabetic or diabetic, they got blood pressure medication, anxiety medication, depression. So I just want to commend you too for being 60 and being on the natural health path and looking the way you do. You know what I mean? Like you are doing a lot of things right, and like compound all those amazing things that you are doing right. And then just keep building on those, just keep building on your strengths, keep building on what you are doing right. For example, reaching out to me was so huge, reaching out for support, saying, hey, I need to talk to a friend. That's life-saving right there. Like we are creating magic right here, whether we were filming it or not, like just us coming together and speaking creates new neural pathways, new like our subconscious gets reprogrammed when we speak to somebody, when we speak life into ourselves, when we speak, like for example, I claim to be raw before I was even raw. I was on my juice cleanse and I had never eaten fully raw for more than maybe a few weeks at a time, but I put it on my Facebook. I said, I'm raw vegan. And I said, even if I have a little bit of cooked food on that raw vegan path, I just kept saying it to myself. I just kept saying it to people. And, you know, if I had a little piece of broccoli, cooked broccoli here and there, I'd be like, don't judge me. Like, don't even go there.
No,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, this is my path. I'm still raw vegan. I just kept pulling myself back up, and I accepted that I wanted that piece of cooked broccoli, or, you know, and I stuck to certain foods as well in my transition. But the most important thing is, like, I never went back to the starches. I never went back to the animal products. I never went back to the dairy. So as long as we don't, you know, go to those foods and we stick to like the mostly alkaline foods. I'm studying Dr. Ehret's work too, the mucusless diet, the mucusless healing system. And it is a system of transitional food. I love Professor Spira. I don't know if you follow him at all. He is,
I'm not familiar.
oh my gosh, he is so brilliant. And we're not talking about like, let's go to the fruit. We're talking about like, hey, let's have a sweet potato with a piece of bread, with a piece of
Right,
whole wheat toast. This is
right.
the transitional diet. And most
Diet,
people don't
right,
understand that it takes time. I was eating Ezekiel bread for those 8 years as a vegan, you know, because it is the healthier option as well. And I
right,
love myself in there. Yes, I was having the vegan cheese and all that stuff.
right.
And it was like, I think, and I also did a lot of plant medicine. I don't know if you've had experience with plant medicine, but those have helped me to address the underlying trauma. I had therapy, I had mentors. So like, I highly recommend anybody, and, you know, maybe for yourself as well. I don't know if you feel a calling towards the plant medicine world, but, you know, shamans,
I'm open. I'm open. I'm wide open to
yeah.
exploring this, things,
Yes, because there are some underlying issues that are deep into like our heart, deep into our body, like our body keeps hold of them in our subconscious, that is very hard to break without these psychedelics, you know, and like
Yeah.
it's maybe even controversial. But when I went to rehab, I don't know if you know a little bit about my rehab journey. I didn't go to a
Mhm.
traditional rehab. I went to Ibogaine, an Ibogaine clinic in Mexico, where it's legal because it's not in other places in the world. And this is like, basically you're in a 12 to 24-hour journey where you're lying down. It's done in a clinic. There's
Mhm.
iboga, which is the natural root bark. It's from Gabon in Africa. And this is like the mother of all plant medicines. This has been used for thousands and thousands of years for mind, body, spiritual, creating connections, overcoming our demons. Like, I literally full on in my journeys was staring at my demons, was talking to my demons, was seeing my own death. It revealed things about myself. It revealed things about my past lives, where I come from, all these things. It was a scary journey. I will not say it's easy. This is warrior medicine, you know,
Right,
but
right. Yeah.
had I not had those medicines, yeah, and we use them for treatment of drug and alcohol addiction, also depression, suicidal behaviors, eating disorders. I mean, I was desperate and my family didn't know what to do. So I was like, I just went to this thing, and it literally saved my life. And each time I did this, well, I did a few experiences, and then I went to the jungle of Peru to do ayahuasca. And then I did some, you know, all these different things, combo, psilocybin, and they're becoming much more mainstream now in the
Yeah.
healing of the underlying issues of the depression. Because, you know, if I think about it, why would I eat why would I eat certain foods, or why would I even pick up drugs if I'm happy? You know, that's the underlying thing. It's like, I struggled with depression my whole life. I was medicated for many years of my life. And that's why when I went to the traditional healing center, the rehab, because I went through those too, they said, you will never get better if you're not on antidepressants. You will never overcome your drug and alcohol dependency if you don't get on these anxiety pills. And something in me, God or my higher self, God definitely was telling me, no, don't take them. And whenever I did, if I didn't listen and I did take them, I was sick for days. My symptoms got worse. So I knew intuitively that I had to heal the depression, that I had to heal what was wrong in my body, my mind, my soul. I had to change friends. I had to maybe, you know, move. I had to do all these things, and then follow my path too. So like, living in my purpose, now that I am living in my purpose of sharing, opening up, as clumsy as I am, you know, me too. I have, like, we were talking about perfectionism. I am such a perfectionist. And like, I'm thinking right now, like, I'm picking at myself, you know, but it's like, you know what, just show up, even if you're shaking in your pants, even if you say the wrong things. Like, so I've been practicing just showing up as I am, and helping and teaching, and always, like you said, from my experience, this is my experience.
Right.
And
How
I'm
could it be
realizing
wrong?
that,
It's your experience.
and I'm getting better, being in
Yes, yes.
service and being in service to my brothers and sisters, not for the money, not for anything other than just like to serve. Yes, I want to live. Yes, I'm finding ways to monetize my work and my time, but it's not always about the money. You know what I mean? Like if I want to get on a call with a friend, I'm going to get on a call with a friend. It's not just like, oh, here's my coaching rates and da da da. No, sometimes it's not about
Yeah.
that,
Sometimes it's not about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely needed a life raft. Like you're throwing me a life raft, and
Oh,
hopefully somebody will get something out of this, and who knows who we're helping right now, right? Like we don't
absolutely.
even know who we're helping. A lot of times we cry for help, and we end up helping someone else in the process of our
Yes.
own needing a life jacket or a life raft or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm open to all kinds of things. Like I did some shaman work, or shamans worked on me. It wasn't with the medicinal aspect of it, but I'm intrigued by it. I do know that whatever this is around the cooked food for me, it runs deep. Like that's not to say that it's impossible. I'm going to be eating cooked food for the rest of my life. But it's important for me to acknowledge it. Like there are times, Aileen, where I really, really am enjoying fruit and really want to stay, and something will hit me, and it feels like the best way for me to describe it, like a hook in my chest, pulling me towards cooked food. Like literally these two opposing forces where as I'm walking towards, the cooked food or getting the cooked food or preparing it or whatever, there's this other part is like, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. I really don't want. So it's that. It's and it's
And it's that.
and in that moment, the temporary relief, because it's temporary, the temporary relief that I feel in that moment, the cooked food will provide, and surely it will provide, is more, not important to me. I don't know the words I want to say, is that the relief from feeling so, no
Overwhelmed.
pun intended, raw, like feeling like my skin is turned inside out to the world, that in that moment, that bowl of beans and rice or that slice of Ezekiel bread is going to just provide me with a very temporal relief. Like
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. So,
I think it's
but I
amazing
know
that you
there's a
have
way
so
to
much.
overcome that.
I think
There must be a way.
it's so amazing that you have the awareness. This is what I wanted to say earlier, is that you, as opposed to most people, have awareness. And because you've come from, recovery from drugs and alcohol, know there's like this moment, like you were saying, before you go automatically, like there's a moment in there that maybe there's something to be done, that has helped me as well, as to reach out to somebody, just like how you're doing with me, as to like have that lifeline, have that friend that you call, have that voice clip that you send, or something in our toolbox that we need, instead of that, to self-soothe. It's about self-soothing. And probably in our childhood, in your childhood, you have maybe developed some unhealthy mechanisms to self-soothe, the
Right.
food, the drugs,
Right.
things like that. So it's really about learning to soothe ourselves. Like, what would make me feel good? Maybe a bath, maybe a run, maybe writing my story, maybe a cry, maybe we need to cry, like there's so many things that we can go to in our toolbox that may help release that energy that's pent up, that does get relief from the foods, you know what I mean? So it's like we want to give ourselves relief. It's like, what is going on? I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed out, I'm feeling sad, but it's like we don't want to feel that emotion. So like being raw, and I say this too, and I also want to mention that I started my own little community for the same reason, because I was working with Shane for a year, and I decided to go do my own path, to start my own community, because we need support, and we also need a safe space to come and share. Oh, I missed my train of thought.
That's
But
okay. It'll come back. I've learned it'll come back
yeah.
to you.
Yeah, to have
But
that other outlet, you know, to have
right.
an outlet of expression so it doesn't go automatically towards the food. So maybe that moment, like just taking more consciousness, you know, and meditation can help with that too, being more in our breath, breathing deeper throughout the day, taking deeper breaths, conscious breath throughout the day. Like I have a lot of breatharian friends that basically don't eat anything, if at all. And it's because they've tapped into the power of their breath. They're getting nourishment from other places than food, you know, and I'm just like baffled by them. They're so amazing, but you've done it. You were breatharian for 40 days. You know what I mean? You were living, you were getting energy, you were, you know,
Oh
getting
yeah.
energy from
And I
prana.
wasn't just weak and like I don't want to paint
Yeah.
the picture that at the end of the 40 days or nearing was I like physically weak and weak and weak. I mean, I was still walking and
Yeah.
doing, I was just resting. And in the 2 weeks of the refeeding, when I first started, like, typically makes you eat for like 3 or 4 days before he will release you to do mild exercise. And so I could only do like 3 push-ups, but I was doing those 3 push-ups, and then the 3 push-ups eventually turned into 10 push-ups. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't like sickly weak. It
Right.
was just my muscles had, when you're laying around, you lose
Yeah.
strength. So it was from that. But I want to say this, and maybe a little bit in closing. I know we've been talking for a long time, and is the addiction part. I I feel it's a bit naive for the raw food community at large, the whole entire movement to, and maybe this is just my thing, I don't mean to offend anybody, and if I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected. But I know there has been some books written about the addiction part, but we always talk about deep dives, and I feel like that needs to be a deeper, focused study and mainstay in the literature
Mm.
around it. It's a lot about the technical how to, or you want recipes, this and that, and all of that. But like that the conversation that we're having is huge. Like when I got out of Tanglewood, I felt like I was being released out of a rehab,
Yes.
and now I'm going back to my using house with my using kids and my using husband. If this was drugs, they would have all been sitting around smoking crack. And you're telling me that I need to just eat fruit? Like there needs to be a lot of this. And that's why when I was talking about a lot about one of the most profound books around this was Alan Carr's Good Sugar, Bad Sugar. That book talked about addiction almost solely. And I don't know if he's a fruitarian, but what he's suggesting in there is like fruitarianism,
Mm.
without him saying the word. He never uses the word fruitarian, but he almost talks all the way around that. It's almost like he purposely stays away from that subject, which I found was amazing. And he was just talking about our perception and our addictions and how these other foods, the cooked food and packaged stuff and processed stuff, how it's marketed to us and what marketing does. And we've been marketed to all our entire lives.
Oh yeah.
And think about this. You're right. Nothing goes deeper than this, because when you're still in the womb, you're being fed through the umbilical cord of your mother, of the host. So she's eating cooked food, and this is before you even come out into the world. You're eating cooked food,
Yep.
unless your mother's raw,
Yep.
unless your mother's a raw fruitarian.
Yeah.
Which how many? I mean, there's some, but how many mothers are really raw? So these fetuses, unborn, like while they're still going through the development stage, even before they're born, are eating cooked.
Yep.
Drugs and alcohol doesn't go that deep. Nothing goes that deep.
No, that's
So
true.
whatever she's eating, whatever mom is eating, is going to feed, is growing, is literally growing the baby. So, as your cells are developing, as your little brain cells are developing, if she's eating cooked, and even the dad his the
Mhm.
sperm and the eggs, his DNA, his sperm cells, if he's cooked, you are literally formed in the womb
Yep.
on a cellular level of DNA strands from cooked food. And so you're talking about, we only talk about cooked food from our human existence, like far back as we can remember, but it goes further back than that.
Oh yeah,
And when you think
absolutely.
about it like that, you're like, wow. So there needs to be more around, like I said, I always say, wow, I wish I had an AA meeting that I could go to for recovering cooked food addicts.
Well, it's so funny that you say that. I think we should create one.
I think we should create, I mean, that would be, right? That's the mother of invention, right? You're out of necessity, because I'm like, yeah,
Like,
like,
who are we waiting for? You know what I mean? We got everything we need.
who's
We
going to
could
save us? Nobody's going to come and save us, right? We save ourselves.
absolutely. Well, we'll talk some more about that another time, but I do remember what I was going to say. And this is so brilliant because this is how ideas are formed. This is how communities are built. This is how healing centers are built. That is one of my dreams as well, is to create a center, a physical center. Like we have very similar dreams, to create a space to have people come, do water fast, do the juice cleanse, but longer term, and do it like pretty affordable so that everybody can afford it. Maybe even offer some for free for some people, and others that could pay more, kind of like a sliding scale kind of thing, so that
Yeah.
everybody could get healing. And then we keep them in that safe environment for like 6 months, a year. I mean, my recovery, every time I've relapsed I think I needed at least 3 months to 6 months minimum in those places to
In
fully,
those
fully
places.
understand what it means to be sober, to live a sober life. So I think it's the same thing with raw living foods, is like, after
Almost
you come
definitely.
off a cleanse, most people will fall off. You are not alone. You know what I mean? Like, you are not alone. I just want to put it out there. Even when I came off my 113-day juice cleanse, I was eating raw. I was eating cooked foods last 18 months ago. It took me a whole year to really fully surrender to the full.
Wow.
So yeah, so even after that, the it's strong. These addictions are strong. So I really feel like people need to give themselves a 6 month to a year of like living the lifestyle, transitioning the gut microbiome, and learning to live with our emotions in a different way, maybe in a community setting with mentors, with a coach, with a therapist, like
Right.
somebody that could help us address the underlying issues that are there, so that we're not just left out in the world. And then you're solid, you're strong, and then you could go out and live your life the way you want to. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. But it does take that time of transition, and it's about accepting our feelings. Maybe we grew up in a house where crying wasn't accepted, where it's not okay to show our emotions. So like all of this is part of the programming as well. So it's like when we go raw, I'm just going to say this, like we feel everything raw.
You
You were saying like just
feel everything.
exposed to
Yeah.
the world. I mean, I'm hypersensitive. I was already sensitive. I am
Right.
hypersensitive,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and it's just like, how are we ready to accept that? I think beyond the food, it's like, am I ready to fully accept myself as I am? Because as you
Right.
know, when you're fasting, you're just raw with yourself. You're there with God. It's you and yourself. There's no buffer. There's no smoke screen. When we smoke, we say there's like a smoke screen between you and people, and I feel like
Right.
food is like that smoke screen. Wow, I never really thought about that, but like the food is like a buffer between us and people, us and reality. And then when you take away that buffer, it's like, oof, there's nothing, and we're just like bumping against everything, and
Right.
we're just like
Right.
so exposed and vulnerable. But I think that's part of the superpower too, and that's where like
Yeah.
more creative gifts can come from. But it's really about being comfortable with being so raw and seen, and not having that maybe yeah, that protection around us. And also weight gain. And I notice this in myself, and I feel a little bit self-conscious, so I'll just say it too, being all exposed, like I'm putting on a lot of weight after my fast. I am overeating. I am not like 100% happy with the way I look, a little bit in self-sabotage, like, oh, I should exercise more, oh, I should stop eating these damn cashews at night. Like,
Right. Right.
even though
Right.
it's raw, I was saying this, that we could still be in our addictions within the raw food. So I still have a lot of work to do, but it's like, hey, we're pressing record and we're going on, and it doesn't matter. This is
And
where
we
I'm
do. We
at.
do. We do. And
And
I
I
talk,
just,
and
yeah,
something too, Aileen, like that's when I talked about how when I tell you when I came out of the 9-day detox center, I was in an 18-month outpatient program and then 6 months of one-on-one therapy with a therapist. By the end of all of that, I had 2 years off of drugs and alcohol. So that foundation was
Yeah.
laid,
Yeah.
and I could have still relapsed, but at least I had a fighting chance with those 2 years already under my belt. So that's kind of like what you're talking about. It's like, you know, it's, not only are we talking about eating, you're trying to eat raw, and so are you. Like, you're raw. Like,
Yeah.
everything is raw in a cooked foods world, and this is like, there's a lot of principles in Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, like even the slogans, this too, like when they talk about your emotions, this too shall pass. Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, some of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, they would call each other and talk, and then later they began to realize that the craving would pass. After a 5 or 10 minute conversation, they'd be talking, and then one of them would forget why they called the other one in such distress, because they'd start talking about helping other alcoholics get sober and all this other kind of stuff. And then and this is in the literature, this is in the Alcoholics Anonymous big book, that by the time they got off of the call, like me and you are on this call, by the time they got up to this call, they were better.
Yeah.
Or at least and even then they just another 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
Just another 24 hours. And that's where even the whole thing in 12 step about, call your sponsor, blah, blah, blah. That's where that comes from, is because they fell upon that by accident.
Yeah.
By calling each other and just like, wow. Like, I think one time it was Bill Wilson, he was going into a hotel, into this conference, and he could see them in there, and the glasses were clinking and people were in there drinking. And he stopped at a phone booth and called Dr. Bob. And by the time the phone call ended, his craving had passed and he was able to turn and walk back out of the hotel. He didn't drink that day. He was saved for 24 hours for that day. And this is what you're talking about, creating like these centers where, and I'm telling you, I'm totally a candidate for, like, that's how much I need. So my hat's off to anybody who could just do it and some other with less. Maybe I'm sure there are people that don't need what I need, but I definitely do need that, at least for a while, a year or two.
Yeah.
To actually say, okay, now I've been raw for 2 years. Now I've been raw for 3 years. Now I feel like I walk past a liquor store, I never even think about it.
Exactly.
31 years of, I don't, even in my most grieving moments when my mother died and we were so close, I didn't think about getting high. That's a miracle.
Yeah.
Even in losing a loved one, a parent, I'm an addict. Like, I didn't think about picking up drugs.
Yeah.
That's a miracle. But I had 2 years of sobriety under my belt. I was constantly inundated with meetings, calling my sponsor every day for 3 months, for 90 days. And then I continued to go. So it was constant contact. He would pick me up every day, winter, in snowstorms, sleet and hail, and drive me to meetings. He was doing service so that he would stay sober.
Yeah.
Like that level, it doesn't exist in the raw food community. If it does, I don't know about it.
I think we should make it happen. It's happening right now.
It's happening right now. Like,
we just made it.
This is the call between Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson. Like, we're
Holy
having
shit.
Aileen and Kenneth, like, because I was like,
this is it.
And you know what? I'm gonna cry because I made the breakfast that I described, and I ate the breakfast, and I knew I had the appointment with you, and I knew I had the call, and I was like, you know what? To hell with it. I'm eating this and I'm still calling Aileen because I need to talk to somebody.
Yes.
Because I'm saving my life.
Yes.
I'm saving my own life here doing this. Like, and you can, both of those things can live inside of you in a moment. if you find yourself, if you happen to be in that moment, I'm not encouraging anyone to eat cooked, but if you're already in that moment and you're in that moment in real time, both of those things can live inside you. Like you can reach out for help, while you're eating an egg sandwich and still be like, I'm still a warrior. And I don't care how many times I fall down, I'm going to get back up. Because I realize what is going on intergalactically and planetarily around politics and these lockdowns and all of this stuff around, um, the Victoria's Secret, I'll call it, what I'm talking about, making wearing Victoria's Secret mandatory and taking away people's livelihoods and this whole totalitarian dictatorship regime that is trying to take over humanity globally. If not now, then when? Now is the time. We're in the war of our lives right now. It wasn't World War II. It wasn't all these other. This is a war on humanity. And I know cleansing myself is is the boot camp, right? It's preparing me as a soldier for humanity. And I need to be sharp and I need to be clear and I need to be clean on the inside and out. So, it begins and ends with us, right? I have to start with me. So that's why, I ate the Morningstar vegan bullshit sausage and the egg, but I was like, you know what? This is bigger than me because we have the calling. We've already been called. I don't want to live a life of regret. Like, I don't want to give up the ghost one day and make my transition and not have participated in this war on humanity.
We have to give it our all. Wow, you have me crying.
Yeah, I'm crying too, because it's
when you said
like,
I'm saving my life, like I'm saving my life. This is a shit, man. This is what we're doing, like
right.
we need to be ready to do whatever it takes to save our life. There's nobody going to come and save us. When I was in the middle of my relapse 4 months ago, you know who I called? I called Shane. I didn't know who. I was high on crack. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't leave it. I couldn't stop. There was like the devil was in me and like it was so bad. And God told me, I did a live video. I'll tell you what, I was so vulnerable. I was tweaking. I was like this. I was like not looking good. I took so many drugs and I told the camera, I told people where to come find me. I said, I'm at this place and I was in Belize. I said, somebody come hang out with me. I said, don't try to take away my drugs. I just need someone to be with me. I said,
that's
exactly
real.
that. Exactly.
That's real.
Your breakfast.
That's the real stuff.
And then I said, maybe I do need someone to take it away from me. I don't even fucking know. Just come, just show up. I need somebody here with me right now. And then I realized what I was saying. And I got so scared. That video saved my life. I called Shane and I said, Shane, I admitted on video on live that I was smoking crack. I think the police is going to come after me. I was so paranoid because it's like a big fine, right? If they find you with any kind of pipe or whatever. And I ran out of that place. I was going to go call myself out at the cops. I was like going to go talk to the cops and surrender. And I was like, here's my stuff. Don't arrest me. Don't find me. I just went crazy. But then that didn't end up happening. An angel, a girl showed up in my face and she was like, what are you doing? I said, I have to go talk to the police. She's like, no, you don't. You look terrible. Like, hold still, just stay right here. I'm going to get you some juice. Like, and obviously I didn't go to the police. I did nothing. But in that moment, it got me out. It got me into the ocean. I went for a swim. It gave me a break. And then I went to call for help. And a friend of mine came and helped me because I just couldn't stop. But yeah, in that moment, I called who was my best friend at the time, my boss. I was like, I'm ready to lose my job. I don't care like what it takes. I just need some help right now. And he guided me. He's just like, go find help, go talk to a friend, like just, just get out of there. And I did. And I didn't care who saw me. People witnessed a miracle in that moment because they saw me surrender. They saw me asking for help. They saw me in all my states. I don't even know what I was wearing, like a little swimsuit and just like a disaster. And it didn't matter what happened. I had to save my life, and I'm here today speaking with you because my higher self, my God, like helped me to go into that direction. So whatever you're doing right now, is your surrender. And you might feel tired after today. You might feel extra resistance after today, because the demons, they are real. The demons, they are powerful. You know, they're that little voice inside that doesn't want you to rise. It doesn't want you to serve. It's like you got this God energy that needs you to serve, that's calling you. You know, God doesn't
Yeah.
call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He qualifies the called. He is training us to be in service. You know what I mean? He doesn't
Yes.
call the perfect warriors. He calls the pure-hearted, the good spirits, the kind-hearted ones that he knows can be leaders, you know, because we are a certain kind of people. You know what I mean?
Right. And
So
I'm aware that there's a purification
yes.
that has to take place of my vessel. You know, not that I can't serve with that, but that's definitely a requirement. There's sacrifices that are required in the spiritual realm.
Yes.
It's not all nilly-willy. There are sacrifices, and that word sacrifices is not a bad word. I mean, discipline, that's not a bad word. So there is that. Every soldier, every warrior goes through a discipline, like a boot camp or something in preparation for whatever the battle they're about to go into. So that's a very spiritual thing. That's a very loving thing. Loving parents do provide structure, discipline, and all that, so that their kids are strong and when we go out into the world. So that's a very loving thing that a mother, that a father does for a child. And we are all children of light, right? Children of God, that does. So it's not a, it's not a negative thing. And I know all of us who are here on the planet Earth today are born at this time in human evolution and human existence for a reason.
Yes.
Nothing that's happening is by happenstance. Everything, and everybody knows who's listening to this, who's in earshot of this, knows what I'm talking about. I don't even have to say it, but we know where freedom is and what is at stake here. It's huge, it's global, and it's on a human level that we have to be prepared. I have to be prepared. And there's this cleansing that needs to take place for me to even be up for the challenge of what is coming. And I'm not saying that in a gloom and doom kind of way. I am very optimistic. I believe once the dust settles, there will be many here that will rise from the ashes like phoenixes, right? Like we will. It's not the end of humanity. It's not, I'm not of that camp. But what I do realize is that a purging, a spiritual purging is taking place. Things are being shifted and reconfigured in a way that we're being called to a higher calling, all of us. And going back to nature and raw fruits and vegetables is a big part of it. Because what is and the reason that it is because it has to do with the feminine energy. The masculine is a part of it, but it's the feminine energy, which is the earth. That's why it's referred to in biblical texts and other texts as Mother Nature. It's the male and the female, it's one entity, and it's a part of it. So, what we've done with not replenishing topsoil, think about it, and how we've like overfarmed and farmed and farmed. She's rebelling. Yeah. She's like, I'll get rid of you before you get rid of me, because guess what? I can regenerate. I can survive without you, humans. The earth, like, I don't need you, really. I'm the birther. I'm the giver. I provide the foundation, the ground upon which you human beings stand on. I am the nucleus. I can live without you. Yeah. You can't live without me.
We need to humble ourselves to her.
We need to humble ourselves and actually and give reverence to Mother Earth, this feminine energy, and that has to do with, letting certain, large portions of the earth rest for 7 years and learning her secrets, and learning how to work with her
Mm.
and for her. And she will reward us with her bounty, which are the fruits and the vegetables. It's like the oxygen that we breathe. The trees exhale oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. There's a symbiotic relationship with all of it.
Absolutely.
Very apparent to me. And you're a part of it, I'm a part of it, your whole listening audience is a part of it. So it's not just about a day of where should I eat cooked or should I eat raw? I mean, those are our own personal journeys and struggles, but there's a lot, there's a lot more at stake. And I realize that. And
Hmm.
that's why it's so important. It's
Yes.
so important. And we're all a part of it.
We need to return back to a lot of the ways of our ancients, like the ancient Kamites in ancient Egypt. They knew about this. They knew how to take care of their soil, their land, their people, and they were pretty much raw vegan. And you don't hear that in the history books. And even though they had the opportunity to eat the fish, they knew that one of the laws of Ma'at was to not harm animals, and to live in harmony with all of creation, with the earth, with the fruits, with the plants that Mother Earth did give us. So yeah, and even God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in the which is a tree yielding seed, and to you that shall be your meat. Like these are it has been written that we need to honor what creation has given us, and it's basically just natural law. And when we do honor natural law, like karma, right, it comes back to us so much. So like it's all about honoring ourselves, honoring Mother Earth, honoring God. And the more we do that, the more we meditate and pray and be in silence, then it becomes more and more natural. I don't think it becomes such a struggle after some time. It's just, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is
It's
just
just
how I
life.
live.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to, maybe it's a sacrifice for some time, and we could wrap this up so that we could, yeah, like everybody
Yeah.
could share it. And this has
I
been
know
so
people are
good, and
going to
I
have
think
a
we
lot
should
of
do this
comments
again.
and things. Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted
But
to
like I
say,
said, just to speak to that, like I don't, I'm 31 years clean from heroin and drugs and pills and all that. I don't think about that anymore.
right,
This is just,
exactly.
I'm sober. I live a sober life. I go through challenges every day and stressors like everybody else, but I don't think about, oh, I want to have a drink or I want to, but that took, honestly, Aileen, like 3 years.
Hmm.
And I hear that often in the raw food community with the raw food.
Yeah,
Like it took me 3 years to get to that place in the drug and alcohol realm of things.
yeah,
Why would this be any different? Like
exactly.
this is
I think we need to bring to light the reality of it, of like, resetting our gut microbiome,
addiction.
resetting our mindset,
Right.
just changing everything. It's basically alchemy we're doing. We're like completely changing the biochemistry of our body. So yeah, it takes realistically 2-3 years, sometimes more, depending on the level of toxicity in people. I mean, when you see this mucoid plaque coming out of some people, it is like some old, hard, it takes them 90 days, 100 days to get this out. It is hard sickness coming out of their tubes. I was fairly lucky that mine came out pretty soon, but I had to go 113 days to remove all of it. So there's a lot of backed up waste inside of us that constrict us from, how do you say, it holds us back from these foods, from gravitating towards these foods. So I mean, yeah, some people might need more years, but it's a journey. And it's like, we're gonna be here anyway, might as
Yeah.
well. I just lost an uncle to bladder cancer. You know what I mean? And it's like, but he didn't want to, I don't want to get too much into it, but he didn't want
Right.
to change his ways. He didn't want to change what he was doing, and he didn't make the connection. So like a lot of people don't make the connection between, oh, all of a sudden getting a cancer one time and what have I been doing for the last 30 years? They don't put it together. It's just like, oh, I just got this. Oh, it's hereditary. Oh, I got diabetes because my
Out
mom
of the
has
blue.
diabetes. My
Yeah,
grandma
out
was
of the blue.
diabetic.
I got sick out of the blue. That's a famous one. Like
We do not get
nothing
sick.
is out of the blue like that. Like
Every sickness has been a compound of our habits. And is it just food? No, it has to do with our environment, with our relationships, with the music we listen to, the movies we watch. It's
all of it.
everything.
All of it. All of it. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. All of it. And yeah, it takes a long while, and it there's no coincidence that we talked about we talked about how it takes, let me turn this phone on, how with AA, say for instance, it's make a meeting every day for 90 days and beyond. And every day they count days, from counting days into years or whatever. Call your sponsor every day. Do we think that that's by coincidence? And we're just talking about alcohol, that one addiction. Like all these things they have to put in place. And even then, people still go in and out and in and out and with all of that. So, with food is the first addiction.
Yeah.
You're literally eating whatever your mother is eating when she carried you. You're literally made of whatever was in your dad's DNA when that sperm fertilized the egg that became you. Yeah. So it doesn't get on any deeper level of a DNA level than that. So, if we all, it's funny, our society is very understanding and empathetic about a person, suffering from a drug addiction or whatever. The thing is that we have to make it a part of our normal conversation and our verbiage and our lexicon around cooked food being an addiction. Not a lesser addiction, not like how some people call it a soft addiction. There's nothing soft about it. I quit cigarettes. I was able to kick heroin in the butt, all this other stuff. And I can't give up beans and rice and a slice of bread. It's not a soft addiction. It's addiction.
Yep.
It's just flat out addiction.
I don't think there's any such thing as a soft addiction.
Soft
I think
addiction,
video games is an addiction. Like, marijuana is an addiction. Like it's all, yeah.
And we start by changing the language and calling it what it is. Like the same thing, like with meat eaters. I'm like, no, it's not pork, it's a pig. It's not beef, it's a cow.
Amen.
It's not, you know what I mean? Like, so a part of the mental dissonance is these tricky little, funny little words, this language that we use to stay in denial about reality. And, even before we create whatever we're going to create, that we're talking about creating, it's just start with the language. That's why I said to you and your audience, I'm high right now. And I haven't had a drink or a drug, but I'm high because I just ate what I ate. And so my cells, like, guess what? You know how I know I'm high? Right now, all that microbiome that was screaming an hour ago, it's quiet as a mouse now. It's so happy that I fed it and I gave it its drug. I gave it a shot of what, and now I'm good for another few hours until it's going to scream again. The same way as this is no different than my heroin addiction. Verbatim, it's exactly like I'm telling your audience. It's, if you've never done heroin or anything like that, it's heroin. It's the same exact thing. It follows the same steps. It's the same cycle as a heroin addiction. No different. Why are we calling it something different? It doesn't act differently. Right now, I'm not craving anything.
Yeah.
It is completely satisfied.
Yeah.
Because I gave it the cooked carbs, and I gave it the cooked denatured proteins. They're sleeping right now. They're quiet as a mouse.
I have never heard anybody speak like this before, and we need to make this a conversation, and we need to continue this conversation because honestly, we picked up on each other's vibes somewhere. We definitely connected because I was thinking about this exact same thing this week with salt, particularly with me. I am like highly addicted to salt. Even though it's Celtic salt, it has a different nature than when I want fruit, like I could go my whole morning, I'll go have my fruit, I'll have my juices, my smoothies, and then even lunchtime, but then hits like 2 or 3 o'clock, I need my fix. I start itching for the salt. I start itching for the salad, and I don't want the lettuce. I don't want just the tomato.
You know what the raw food? You know what the raw food people say? That this is the work. They're gonna hate me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. You know what the raw food community says? Oh, I want something savory. I like savory.
They want the
I need
salt.
something savory. No, you want salt. You're addicted. Stop calling it savory. Or I'm a more of a savory person, and all this stuff that we tell each other.
It's salt.
No, no, you want salt.
I want rock.
You're addicted to salt. You're calling
Yes.
it, oh, I gotta have my salad every day because I gotta have that savory. Guess what? You could puree pineapple and pour that on your salad. No,
That's
you don't
true.
want that. You want what you're calling savory. It's not. It's
I
a
know.
salt addiction.
I know. I know. And
It is.
there's so many things, they're like, oh, put dulse on it, dehydrate celery and put it on it. I'm like, I've tried all those things. I am still addicted to the salt. And that's
And
where I'm
even
at,
that,
that's
even
where I'm
that,
at.
we want to tickle our palate. Like I say, I want to have a party in my mouth 24/7. Like I need to have this, I need to have these excitotoxins tickling the roof of my mouth at all times, because that, even certain strong spices and like I need that.
Yeah.
Like what Mother Nature has given me, what the earth has given me, that's not enough. Like my addict needs
Yeah.
excitement in my mouth. I need a party going on in my mouth at all times. Like, and this is like, oh, I'm just a savory person. I know you've heard that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just a savory person. I need that savory. No, you're addicted to salt. And here's the thing, before we ever create a center or anything like that, it starts with language. If we could just call the demon by name.
Yeah.
That's how you make a demon flee.
Yeah.
It doesn't want you to know its name, right? So you call it by its name. And that's not beating yourself up. I'm not saying beat yourself up, but there's nothing wrong with you wanting the salt, giving into the salt, and saying, right now, I'm high off of salt.
Absolutely.
It is what it is.
Exactly. And exactly the words that you're saying were going through my mind, going through my spirit. And I was actually thinking about making a video. And I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't been making videos over the last few weeks because I've been a little bit in self flagellation in a way. I've been like beating myself up because I feel swollen. I feel like, okay, I'm not my best self. I'm going to cleanse today, and tomorrow I'm going to come do a video tomorrow. And then the tomorrow keeps coming. So when you said hit record, my anxiety went off the roof. I'm like, I am not looking my best. I feel puffy. I've had salt last night. All this stuff started coming up, and I'm so touched by this, and I'm so like in a vulnerable state, just like you, because I know I need to speak about it as well. So you're just bringing up everything that's been going on in my own experience too, of like not feeling quote unquote perfect, or like, oh, I should be on the fruit, I should be over the salt, or oh, I should just have a little bit of salt and like have a lot of water, but like, why am I having this much dressing, and being in very highly critical. And then I'm like, wait a minute, can I still be in service in this? And God is like, yes, you can. Look, just show up with Kenneth and you're going to be in service. It doesn't matter, So wow, this is just so good. But I was thinking of the fix, how I have a hard time going through my whole day. Maybe I could push it till 5 p.m., but I know I'm addicted. It is the same as any kind of drug. It is strong. It is powerful. It has a grasp on me. Yeah, it's just like, and the only time I could overcome it is either when I'm juice cleansing or water fasting. I could do the no salt.
Well, we're definitely here. Like I'm on the same. My struggles are your struggles.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely like right here with you about it. And I don't know where this will lead or what will come out of this, but I say, let's just start with the truth.
Yes, I love that. Here it
is. Drop all pretenses, drop the pretenses, and let's just talk the real, and say, I'm addicted. I'm an addict. These foods are addictive. I believe I can overcome it. I'm not being defeatist about it, but it is real. And this is what it is. And the truth of the matter is, because when I'm like that around salt, I could make like a banana smoothie and just, put greens in my Vitamix and get the minerals and all from the greens with just like a banana smoothie or a mango smoothie with greens. No, I want the salad because I want to make this concoction dressing that is loaded with fat and salt because I'm craving salt. Like, but I say, oh, I want something savory. yeah, I might want something savory, but there's those little buggers in my stomach are crying. And the minute I eat it, they're quiet as a mouse. They're like, oh, we're good. You gave us our little dose of heroin. You gave us our whatever, our drug. And okay, you can go on about your day for a few hours until we're ready to kick your ass again
My
and
gosh.
make you submit to us. And that's a cycle that has to be. I want to break that. I don't like the fact that something controls me like that. I just don't. And I know that I will.
That's the first step, is admitting we have lost control over our life. And I mean, some people might be watching us and being like, these guys are crazy. Like they're talking about salt, you know, they might be coming from like eating pizza.
Really? You're out of control over a bowl of rice and beans. Like, come on, you're being too dramatic. But guess what? And I'm not saying this to toot our own horns or to toot my horn, is I'm sorry. I'm gonna, humility, the true meaning of humility is an accurate assessment of oneself. I don't think that I'm better than anybody else or I'm higher than anybody else, and I'm not lower. I know exactly where I am. And guess what? It's gonna sound radical to a lot of people, this conversation, but we have evolved to the point that now this conversation and what we're talking about is the next level of evolution for us.
Yes, exactly.
We're not better than anybody or any of that, but you will get to a point where, yeah, it will come down to you and a piece of fruit over a bowl of rice and beans and a slice of Ezekiel bread. And that will be your challenge. And that will be your demon. It won't be cigarettes or whatever else anymore.
Exactly. We get called to like levels, it's like a level up, it's like a level up. And there was a time where I didn't think I could live without a cigarette or my joint every day, like
every day,
I was awake and big. Even with a kid, I was waking up in the morning, I was smoking, like I was drinking, I was doing cocaine, I was like all this stuff.
That was your struggle, right?
That was my struggle at the time,
Right.
So yeah, we just, when we answer the call, is like an up level. Okay. And then when you're ready to next level. And that's how people get to, and I'm not saying we have to get to that level or whatever, but that's how people get to breatharianism and fruitarianism, where I used to think it was restrictive. Now I'm seeing it as a liberation. I'm seeing like the ones who actually can do it, they have liberated themselves from needing anything else, because they have just done the work. This has been work in progress, and some of us have different times in our life where we get called to do the work, but we're all being called on some level. Like, are you answering the call? I think everybody's getting called on some level. So many people are going through health challenges, and my goal is really to help people like come off of their medication, get back to the natural state of being, so if you, and nobody wants to be on medication. Let's be real. Nobody wants to go to the doctor and be like, okay, doctor, give me those 20 pills for me to manage my diabetes. No, if we could give them hope and say, hey, you could get off of these with time, with patience, with dedication, you can live a happy, healthy life. You just got to find ways and find self-love, find community. So I'm going to put the link too in this video. That would be so great. And I welcome you to our community as well, Kenneth, to come and join, because we do these calls every Saturday. So one of the things I realized what was missing as well in the raw food community was deep conversations. So every Saturday, I welcome a special guest speaker to come and share their experience, because that was one of my favorite things in NA meetings and AA was the guest speakers, because that was my aha moments. That's when I got like conversations like this, where people just like, we just light up. It's like, oh, okay, they did that. And then you get another aha moment. And then you put it all together. Hearing people's experiences is what helps us the most. So every Saturday we do, a royal gathering. It's called Kings and Queens of Raw. So it's all about elevating ourselves to our royal nature, to our divine selves, activating our divinity within and our DNA, knowing that we come from this deep place of knowing, and trusting our intuition, and also, just honoring our earth, honoring God, honoring our ancestors, that basically we're living for our ancestors too. I'm very connected to my ancestors. Like, they didn't get to do all the things we're doing. A lot of the pain that we're carrying comes from them because they couldn't even process it. So a lot of the stuff that we're releasing is not even our shit. It's like coming from them, it's coming from murders, from displacement,
what does
from
Shane
rape.
say? Yeah. He calls it intergenerational, whatever, like trauma.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm working with this new thing that I positioned. weekends, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, literally, but with enough advance notice, after I get a little seniority under my belt, I can take off a Saturday.
Okay.
And whenever I do, so I wanted to say that out loud to you and your audience that Saturday and Sundays I'm working from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Standard Eastern Time. But I mean, I can still take a Saturday off once I've worked a few weekends.
Sure.
So
or maybe we can even create, no pressure here, but maybe we could even create a whole other time slot during the week to do more. To have you come on. I don't know. We could talk some more about it. I don't want to like
we'll
put you
talk
on
more
the
about
spot,
it,
but
but
we'll talk
I mean,
some more about it. Yeah.
The good thing is that I'm off right now. I have like Monday through Thursday off, which is a lot of time off. It's just I work just those 3 days a week right now. So.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, this is such a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for reaching out to me.
Much.
Wow, this is deep, and we're going to be processing this for many days.
For many days, yeah, many days.
Thank you for opening that door and for allowing us to record it. This is totally like, you guys, we would have heard like a whole 20 minutes before. I was like blown away, and it just kept on going. So I'm really happy this happened.
Well, me too, and it'll be interesting to see what feedback you get in the comments in the comment section and all that. And hopefully my hope is that I helped someone.
Absolutely.
I know you've helped me. So
thank you.
I don't know what this is that's popping up here, but anyway, maybe that's okay. Now it's gone. All right. So thank you so much, Aileen.
You've helped me too. I did my water fast after you, I was like, what? This is even possible? I didn't even know that you could do that,
Well, I was so looking forward to this, and it truly, you threw me a life raft today, just emotionally. Even if I go on to eat more cooked food today, I really don't care, but on an emotional level, I feel so much more empowered now, and that's because of this conversation. I'm 100% honest with you. I just feel like I have someone who understands me. That's so important, man. People don't know it's so important. I can't get that from a book or any of that. Like, so yeah.
Wow.
So enough said. Thank you so much.
I needed you as much as you needed me today. Trust me.
Well, I'm glad. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Kenneth, let's continue this conversation. And thank you to everybody who stayed with us till the end.
I know it's been long, but it's it was needed. I know I needed it. So
yes, me too. Me too.
Okay. Enjoy your day.
All right. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.